Kidok, so we wanted to reserve a bit of time if you had any specific Q&A. I also had just one topic where we can brainstorm if there is no specific question, but let me first
I
open
have
up.
I
Yes,
have a question.
go ahead.
I believe at some point somebody mentioned about snapshots, and
Yeah.
mine was um, container snapshots. Is this correct?
Yes.
One snapshot is created. After that point, is it like copy on write? So it will be like a diff between one snapshot and the other snapshot?
So effectively, there is no copy on write in DAOs because everything is version, right? So the way DAOs work is that every IO is a new version. So what happens is that when you have no snapshot, we have an aggregation process that runs in the background that flattens the history, right, of the versioning. And when you take a snapshot, we just pin a specific set of version, and we take the aggregation, we modify the aggregation process to retain those versions readable, right? So in practice, yes, it does copy on write, but actually it does copy on write all the time, right? And then when you have snapshot, you can take a snapshot and then you can mount a snapshot, right, of your old data.
So
If that
can
makes
I,
sense.
let's say, control the snapshot time? Maybe I associate TTL with each snapshot. So it will last maybe for the last, I don't know, year, and then it will be removed automatically.
So no, it won't be removed automatically. You can, when you take a snapshot, use no snapshot what is available at the time you take the snapshot, right? And then you will get a time associated with it, a timestamp.
Mhm.
And then later it's going to be retained, it's going to consume space. And then eventually, if you want to reclaim the space, then you have to explicitly delete the snapshot with the
Just
DAOS
in one
utility.
scenario, like use DAOS like for backup purposes, because keep last days of backup, but after last days, we throw it away. So it should be, I guess, automated through outside of the DAOS.
Yeah, you're gonna have. I mean, we had this feature actually being asked, and if you look into the property, I think. Let me check. I think we have something in the container property to this intent, but I don't think we have implemented it. Container properties. Or maybe this is in the. We have the number of snapshot here that we took, but there is a snapshot, max snapshot. Yeah. So basically, we put a value here, but it's not implemented. You can't change this value today. Where basically you could tell retain X snapshot, right? We had this feature request that we have never implemented. We put the value here, but we never implemented it, where you can tell, like for instance, 10 here, and DAOS will keep the 10 most recent snapshot. And when you take the 11th snapshot, it will automatically delete the oldest one, right? But this feature is not implemented. And today you have to do the snapshot management by yourself, right? Until this is implemented.
Do I correctly, to access snapshot, I need to mount it somehow?
Yeah, so currently supported through Fuse. Well, I don't think it's available in the version that is on Aurora. Aurora is using Q6, and mounting a snapshot is only available in Q8. But you have an extra parameter when you mount with diffuse to give to identify the snapshot you want to mount. But unfortunately, it's not available today on the Q6 version that is deployed on Aurora. It will be whenever Aurora upgrade to Q8 and when Q8 is available.
And I guess snapshot is in that case it's immutable, so I cannot change it, but I can read data out of it and
Yeah,
copy it
yeah,
to some other location.
correct. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We don't support cloning. Cloning is not available. It's not a supported feature. But yeah, the snapshots are immutable. Yeah.
So let's say if I delete some file in that POSIX container, can I recover that file by saying, okay, here is a snapshot point in time. Can you just copy that particular metadata about that file from that point in time to new point in time without copying actual data?
No, there is no such capability. You will have to mount the snapshot, mount the tip of the container, and copy the file manually.
Okay.
There is no way today to upgrade the time, to just change the timestamp of a specific file in the tree. We don't.
Right.
That would be possible, but we don't expose this capability.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So maybe I have a question in general, and happy to take any feedback. So we have presented a lot there. We try really to simplify, to keep simple things simple, right? And I will obviously welcome any feedback from anybody who has not used DAOS yet, or people who has used DAOS already, about on Aurora potentially how we can make it even simpler, or we can lower the bar, right? For adoption, for the most simple use case. I put a few examples here. Obviously, I think data mover is one gap, right? I think we definitely need to implement it and provide a way to efficiently move data between ALCF storage system and DAOS on Aurora. There are a few things we're exploring as well. Is we have this feature called multi-user diffuse, and where potentially you can mount diffuse as root, right? And that would be more like a parallel file system in this case. I don't necessarily think we want to move away from the pool concept, but there might be some time example, and I don't know, Kevin or Gordon, everybody. There might be maybe some cases where people just want to try out DAOs or have very simple use cases. Maybe you can have a generic pool for different people to use and use this multi-user diffuse. I don't know whether that will, and that can be pre-mounted on the compute node. I don't know whether it will maybe simplify things for small use cases. And I think we can also pre-mount, right, and not having to use the start or launch diffuse. If there is a way for us to identify what container must be mounted before the job start, we can definitely modify some of the systemd script or something like this, right, to try to pre-mount diffuse automatically. I don't know, just throwing out idea there of people and thinking whether it makes sense and whether it is even practical.
See, it seems like if I'm doing a long run with a bunch of restarts, I think the natural way to transition would be to have, a container that is reused, right? Each stage, between each restart. And I guess I was wondering if I think maybe you said this before, I'm not sure. Are the ACLs such that anyone in the project could submit a restart against that container?
I think, Gordon, correct me if I'm wrong, I think everybody in the project can access the pool, right? Yeah, sorry.
Generally, yes. So the way we are by default configuring pools is that someone will be assigned as the pool owner, but the Unix group of your project will be given access to the pool, so they'll be able to mount and read write your containers, but whoever creates them from your project.
And if someone, even if it's just the same person, is reading some data from the container to do some visualization or something, and a simulation is still running, producing more output in that container, is that in principle, is that working use case?
Yes, I mean, parallel access to the container is completely permissible.
I think the kinds of things that are kind of useful in practice are what the changes to job scripts and submission scripts kind of look like. So, because oftentimes there's quite a bit of logic there, and binaries are linked in from another place, or directories are created for the run to exist in. Some my experience in testing stuff a while back anyway was that it was a little kind of tricky to move out of just the transliterate that all that file system access to the appropriate container stuff.
You should be able to cover that in a workshop, Tim.
Pardon?
You should be able to cover that in the workshop.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
as normal, minimizing any required changes is always top of list. So I think that's a to-do item for the global team to try to minimize those effects.
For example, a job script that creates a specially named directory and copies all the input into there and puts the output into there. That's a use case that I think is not common.
Hidok, yeah, definitely we can discuss this more.
Question regarding mount. So with DAOS, we need to use a special command to mount DAOS container. Is it possible to use regular mount command?
Yeah, it's possible. You can also configure it with systemd. But in this case, you can do it. We have it in the documentation. You can use systemd to auto mount it, either as root or as regular user. There are also ways with systemd to mount user space file system for regular users when you connect to the node. And we have all of this documented as well. But you need to know what you mount. You need to tell systemd what you want to mount, right? And that's the problem, is that people might want different containers to be mounted in depending on what they are trying to do, right? So they will need to configure it, right? There is also something that is available that maybe I can show. Sorry about that. I wanted to share my screen and I left the meeting. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yep.
Okay, sorry. So I've created, so Gordon created this GPU hack, and I can list a container in there, right? And I've creating a POSIX container. You can mount it with Fuse. We have this start diffuse on the URN, so I have that DAOS created. I'm gonna have to change it now to GPU hack, and my container is jelocont. So when I do that, then I go into the DAOS, sorry. So it's mounted, I have diffuse, and I have the capacity of the pool. And actually to unmount, I can just do that. But there is also this ability in, and I don't know whether start diffuse support it, to just mount a pool.
You can pass any parameter. They just all get passed down.
Okay, so you can just don't pass the container. And that's going to be interesting because in this case, we mount the pool, right? So if you do that, you can't list, and maybe we can fix it, right? But actually, if you do that, this, you can go into it, right? So basically, it's a specific mount point where you mount the pool, and actually in there, you can CD inside the container based on the UID. We haven't implemented listing, right? You can't, if you type ls, it tell operation supported because we don't list container, right? We could, I think there is no problem with this, but we definitely could implement it. But actually, it's a directory for each container you have in there, right? And then when we are there, actually it's exactly the same thing as if you were mounting the full pool plus container under DAOS and DCUID.
So is
So
access control rights checked when you do this kind of mount?
yes,
Mounting pool?
yep, everything is checked. And this is the problem, is that we have a specific ACL to allow listing container. And actually you might create a container that is yours, that you can mount, but actually you cannot list it because you have a specific ACL, because someone can decide to exclude you from this ability to listing container from others, right? So this is why in this case, we haven't implemented list, but we should actually implement listing and return not EPERM, right? If the user, for whatever reason, doesn't have the ability to list container inside this pool.
What is the reason why we need to specify the pool name when we mount the container? Can we just specify mount container?
No, because you
pool
need
name?
to know in what pool, right? This is all the pool available on Aurora. So it's going to take a bit of time. So how do I know? This is all the pool I have access. So I might have a container one in Catalyst, and I might have container one in Twinblood, right? Twinblood. How do I know when you want to mount which one you want to mount?
So the name of the container is within the scope of the pool.
Exactly. It's unique inside the pool, but you can have two containers with the same name in two different pools.
Got it. Okay.
And what does that degrade status mean?
Yeah, so there are some node. DAOS was created, DAOS users with a certain number of nodes, and there are some nodes that have lost SSD or need to be repaired, right? And are still being investigating or being fixed, and then will be reintegrated. This degraded mode is a bit misleading. It means that is degraded because there are 112 targets among the 4,000 that have been excluded, but actually the system is fine, right? It's just like whenever those nodes that are missing are fixed, we can reintegrate them into the node, and then the system will be at full scale. But I think we need to change that, because at the scale of Aurora, there will always be a node missing or a few nodes missing. So with this classification, we will always be in degraded mode, right? So I think we need to fix the naming here, and we will change that because it's confusing.
The important thing is the DAOS pool query with the -T option, look at the health of the pool itself.
So that was even my next question. So the pools that are there, can we check if they are available? It's not the status, this status that's gonna let me know if I can use it, right?
So one thing just to note, Johan has some escalated privileges, which is why he sees all those pools. You're just going to see the pool that you can see.
Yep.
Yes, but I was checking this morning for Core Collapse to use it and try, and I saw that it was in the grade state too. So I sent an email to support to see
Yeah.
if I can use it to test, because I would like to compare with my.
You can use it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We will fix it. I mean, we need to fix the thing. I think what Gordon was mentioning and what I had in my slide is this things you need to check here for pool heals info. And you say, Gordon, there is dash T, uppercase T, lower T.
Lower T. This shows the health info.
Okay, just the info. Okay. So state ready here is important, and rebuild idle is a good sign. If you see rebuild busy, well, something is going on.
Thank you.
Welcome.
If I can also mention, so some users may already have access to Aurora and have existing pools or projects, and of course, please use those. But if as part of the hackathon, you don't have an existing allocation, Gordon created this GPU hack that's assigned to the group GPU hack, which I believe all hackathon users are assigned to. So you can potentially use this for your work if you don't have an existing pool. Just be aware that it's shared with everyone with this group. So don't put any data you wouldn't want to post publicly.
And it will expire at some point after the hackathon is over.
Yeah, so if you put any value, data that you want to keep, then you should copy that back to a longer term project space.
Is it possible to use quotas in POSIX containers?
No.
Okay.
So the interesting thing that I didn't mention, and maybe I will confuse you more if I show you that, and then I should stop after that, is that actually you can also create link from a container to another container, right? So for instance, here I have mounted DAOS, right? I am the pool GPU hack. I have mounted it under this /DAOS, and I mounted my container called JLOcont, right? I seed into that, IDF, I see I am diffuse, right? And now what I can do is create a new container in the same pool, right? With the same argument. I'm going to call it a JLOcont, my count, JLOcont2, right? And actually, I will add this thing here, --pass my count. And it will create inside diffuse a symlink that will actually point at the other container. So if I do ls my count now in there, if I go inside this container, diffuse actually automatically redirect me to the other container, right? So here the file I've created is inside the container JLOcont2 I have created. And if I go back here, I create a file here, I am in the original container. So you can, inside Fuse, create a link to other container, and other container, and kind of encapsulate them, right? But maybe that's a bit too advanced. And if you list the container in there, now you will see that there is my JLOcont2, right? There are two totally independent containers. It's just that inside JLOcont, I created a special directory, which is called my count here, that actually I can access and automatically redirect me to the other container inside the same diffuse endpoint, right?
So is it
Okay.
actually symbolic link or it's a sparse point?
It's a mount point inside diffuse.
Got it.
But it's from the VFS standpoint, it's not a mount point. If you look into the VFS, you only see one mount point, right? You don't see the other mount point. The other mount point is emulated by diffuse inside diffuse. You don't see it at the system level.
So now if we unmount this top level container, it will kind of hide all of this.
The whole thing is gone.
Right?
Yeah, the whole
And
thing is gone.
And
Right.
if I remount it, that both containers will be available?
Yep.
Okay.
Tac. Tac. Tac.
And is there any way to see the list of all of these extra mounts within the containers, like in one single command?
Good question. Not get at it, yeah. I think there is an option, actually. Query. I think it's query. No, those FS query. No, we can't see it. We can, with diffuse here, you can see, oh yeah, you can see two containers. You run DAOS FS query dot. You can see that actually this diffuse instance is accessing one pool and two containers. So the fact that there is two containers here will tell you that there is two mount point in there.
But I need to know the exact names, locations.
Yeah,
It's not
I
just
know.
count.
I know you will ask that.
Right. You know, okay.
We have everything in the software to tell you that, but I don't think we expose it through the utility.
Got it.
But
Okay.
that's a good point. Yeah. Anyway, probably a bit too advanced for later. Okay, if there is no more question or anything, we can wrap up.
And one last thing, if you do choose to use the GPU hack pool allocation, when you create the container, either name it by your username or name it by your project name, but ideally name it something obvious so people don't get confused. Like if you just name your container test or something, other people might try to mount it thinking that was theirs.
Not like me, basically, right, Kevin?
So Kevin, would you just recommend people to request a specific, like a DAOS pool through the support? Just email.
Well, if they don't have a long-term project, I don't think that's a good idea. If they do have a long-term project allocation, then sure. But
Okay.
if you don't, you can use this one. It's fine.
Okay.
You know, if there's 20 people and you create 20 containers, that's no problem. Just name them appropriately so people don't get confused of whose container is
Okay.
whose.
Yeah, we have about like 27 or so teams. So I would say use your team names and then username if you want to have multiple per team. And then the slides are already on the slide channel, and we do have a Slack space that is going to be active. And I believe Joanne and Muhammad will be also on site during the in-person portion.